Condition. With Janaelle and Will. Welcome back to Alternate Win Condition. This is our third episode. With me is my co-host Will.
Siege Rhino, we sent Pod away. Why did you really have to stay in Modern too? It's bad enough what you do in Standard, but did you really have to stay here in Modern too?
He's very upset about that, Siege Rhino. I'm Janaelle. And we are going to move straight into our news topics this week.
Just for the record, I'm not upset about Siege Rhino. He's a great card, but, I was sort of hoping when Pod went away, he would go away too, but apparently that's not the case.
Nope. Siege Rhino is too good. Too good. Oh, I don't know why you would want to get rid of it. It's so good. So
He is good, but just let him dominate Standard. He's okay in Standard.
What? You got 3 fucking Siege Rhinos in that game? No wonder you won. Yeah. Alright. So if you have not heard, Magic the Gathering Online had their pre-release, and their events packs were missing a very specific card. Will, what was that card?
Yeah, see, if you went to the actual pre-releases, the main reason, and normally I don't even do the stupid cards that they have in there saying, complete these tasks and you will, because there usually is no prize worth talking about. But this time they were offering Ugin's Fate packs that literally just had like 3 cards in it. But one of those cards that you could get was an alternative art Ugin.
All the cards in those packs were alternative art.
That is correct, yes. But the one that most people were really looking for was Ugin, because it was, I think you could probably buy them now for about $120 still.
The alternate art is still over $100, yes.
Yes, easily. So, however, when they did the Magic Online pre-release events, apparently
it wasn't possible to get one.
Ugin decided to stay home for that one. He's like, you know what? I've already been, healed by Sarkid, in the main pre-releases. I don't need to be here.
And the worst part of it all, in my opinion, was that in the official announcement, Wizards said, and I quote, "Want to get your hands on cards from Ugin's Fate booster packs on Magic Online. Players will be getting their chance during the Magic Online Fate Reforged pre-release and release events." That's what they told you. So what they left out was Ugin was not possible to get picked up.
Yeah, you can't. Sorry if you wanted the Sweetheart Ugin for Magic Online.
Too bad.
Can't do it. Sorry.
They did say they will be releasing him later, but no one knows when.
Something tells me that when they said that, maybe they're going to do, like, I know at stores and stuff like that, they have what's called Game Day. I think Game Day is actually this weekend for Fate Reforged. And so I'm wondering if when they do the Fate Reforged Game Days on Magic Online,
they'll give them out.
They'll give them out to the winners, because generally I'm guessing they're probably going to be like 8-person pods or something like that on Magic Online.
They might,
the winner.
But I still was really disappointed that they forgot to tell Magic Online players that they couldn't get that card. Yeah, admittedly, this doesn't affect me at all.
No, it's like, and I don't play. I mean, literally, the only reason I play Magic Online is if I'm feeling up for like a draft or something like that. And the store is closed. Literally, that's about the only reason that I get on Magic Online to begin with. But some people are Magic Online grinders, and they were hoping to get these sweet alternative art Ugins, and
yeah,
sorry.
Well.
Still less crying than the pod players though. So we just have to take that into consideration.
There was a lot less crying than from the pod players. That is very true.
I'm sorry, pod players. I'm not meaning to make fun of y'all.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
so our next Magic news was Magic Origins. Our next core set has been announced. And it is going to be the story of the origins of Jace. I just said Chase. Because Chandra's there, and Liliana, Gideon, and Nissa.
Now, the most awesome thing that I want to start off with this is, did you see the artwork that they released for Liliana?
Oh, I did, and I'm going to try and get it pulled up for the lovely people watching on YouTube.
Yeah. That art was amazing because apparently, I guess before she got her spark to become a planeswalker, she was a healer, not a necromancer. And so there's an image of her, just kind of walking around through a field or something like that. I don't even know what it was, but you could definitely tell.
She's walking down some steps in front of a castle, and there's some birds nearby. I'm gonna get it pulled up here on the stream in just a second.
But by all indications, I would say that whatever, if this is associated with a Liliana creature, which there's a theory behind this that I'm gonna talk about in just a second, but the creature is going to be white. I mean, by all indications there, since Liliana was a healer, I'm assuming she is going to be a white legendary creature if that's what they're doing, which I'm not 100% certain on, but if they're
I don't know. I saw some speculation that she's going to be a white planeswalker that flips to be the black Liliana, and that the art we saw is the two sides of that card.
And that's kind of the route that I was going too, even though what I actually heard, the kind of rumor that I heard going around was that it will start off as a legendary creature. So because
and then she'll flip into a planeswalker.
And they did say when they were announcing Magic Origins that this set's going to have more new cards than any of the previous core sets.
Oh wow!
When they were talking about this, because most core sets are a bunch of reprints and stuff like that, with a few new cards like Goblin Ravel Master and Stoke the Flames and stuff like that. Those were all core set cards.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, they said these are going to be completely new cards. Now, don't get me wrong. I personally think there are going to be some reprints in there, especially I've heard rumors.
Well, yeah, they said more than. They didn't say completely new.
Yeah, they didn't say completely new. I would not be surprised to see a Liliana the Veil, which is the big Liliana, the 3-mana one.
Oh, yeah, the expensive one.
The expensive one be somewhere in this set or either the next set, because, well, I have a theory about the next set as well behind Magic Origins, which they haven't even officially announced what the set after this is.
Well, we will discuss that next week as one of our main topics. So if you're interested about Will's theory, stay tuned to not next week. Fuck. The week after that.
Week after that, yeah.
I'm totally good with time.
So, but yeah, there is a theory that I have, and it deals with the new standard rotation and everything else, and why Magic Origins is important in that transition.
That's our news for the week. So now we're going to tell you what we did, because you are way more interested in what we did this week.
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering. Get the cards, play the game. Hope to win, but as we all know, it's not about winning.
Draft.
Commander.
Trading.
Legacy.
Modern.
Standard.
Tilt.
Table flip.
This Week in Magic starts now.
So, Will, what did you do in Magic this week?
Well, let's see. Since our last episode, I did my Monastery Mentor in Eternal Formats testing. Basically in Legacy and Modern.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to end up.
Good.
Monastery Mentor, as much as I wanted it to work in Legacy,
mm-hmm.
it really does not.
I think people were overestimating that it should be replacing Young Pyromancer. I think it's more that they need to be used together.
Yep, and actually that is actually the way that I tried it. I tried going three in my Legacy Jeskai Stoneblade deck. I went 3 Stoneforge Mystics, 3 Young Pyromancers, 3 Monastery Mentors, and 2 True Name Nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
What I found out just in playtesting a few games with it is if I had a choice between, a Young Pyromancer or a Monastery Mentor in my hand, I pretty much always wanted to play the Young Pyromancer. If I had Monastery Mentor in my hand versus True Name Nemesis, I always wanted to play the True Name Nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not that I think the card is bad. And in fact, in Modern, when I tested it in my Jeskai Delver deck, it was amazing. I mean, there were some games that it single-handedly won me just because of the sheer amount of tokens that it was creating with all my non-creature spells. But But it did not. It didn't live up to what I thought was happening with Legacy, and so maybe sometime down the road, if someone comes out with a list that better utilizes it, I might consider going back and looking at it. But as of right now, I'm not playing it in Legacy, but I am continuing to play it in Modern, and it seems to be doing very well. Then the weekend after we immediately recorded, I played in a invitational qualifier on Saturday and an open trial on Sunday, and Star City events.
How'd that go for you?
Well, the Star City, the IQ overall went all right. I was into the point in the final game that I was playing for top 8. Unfortunately, I lost my game to get in there, so unfortunately did not make top 8. And honestly, it was a standard tournament, I should say. I was playing my Teamer Monsters deck, and I was like, okay, well, this is okay, but it seems like it was getting run over by token strategies, and a lot of people were playing tokens. Mm-hmm. So I decided to try a different deck, because I had all the components for the Teamer Ascendancy deck, which we talked a little bit last episode. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and built the Teamer Ascendancy deck, just straight card for card for the deck from the list that got 11th place. Ended up going 1-3, which overall I consider not too terrible with the open trial, because I haven't ever played it in a competitive format. So, but then I took that same deck with a few small modifications to Friday Night Magic this past week, and it ended up going 3-1.
Wow. So, okay.
It's amazing how that deck works in just terms of creating mana. One of the changes I did make from the original deck is I put a Crater's Claw in there, because I personally, and this happened actually during one of my matches, was I had 11 devotion on board. The person was at, I think, 20 life still. So I tapped my Nykthos and 2 mana for 11 mana. Then I had 2 Karametros Acolytes out, which I also added into the deck as well. Tapped each of those for 11. So I had 33 floating mana, then tapped a red mana. And I said, Crater's Claw you for 35. Like, and that was the end of the game. It was like, I mean,
wow.
it didn't have any mana. It didn't have any counter spells or anything like that. So I was like, and, good game at that point. But, yeah, so I think I'm going to keep going with the Teamer Ascendancy deck. I think there are a few other things that I can change out, especially in the sideboard, because against aggressive decks, it seems like, against the most aggressive of decks, I still need to find answers for some things. So I need to keep playing with it a little bit more, but for the most part, I'm happy with it, and I definitely want to keep trying it out. So
nice. All right.
Well, how about you? How I know last time you were working 13, 12-hour days.
I worked late again last Friday, so I didn't get to play again, and that was very irritating. So I haven't played Magic at Friday night in 3 weeks. I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all.
Well, are you finishing up with the late nights, or?
I hope so. Except this Friday is Valentine's Day, so I'm not playing Magic this Friday either.
It's like, actually, I admit I am not playing Friday Night Magic this weekend either, for the same reason. My wife and I are going out of town.
I did get to an EDH tournament on a Sunday, and I got my ass handed to me because I was too passive. I was afraid I would draw fire from my opponents, so I didn't cast, what's the card? It's Pegasus something, and it costs 9, and it gives you a number of Pegasi equal to your life total.
Oh, wow.
And I had 45 life.
Yeah.
So I just went like, swing for your face. And I also had on top of that some angel, I can't remember any of my cards' names, but it's XX, 2 colorless, 2 white, and it gives you...
Entreat the Angels.
Entreat the Angels, yes.
Yep.
It gives you an angel for every X, or you can cycle it, and for X you get soldiers. And I had 12 mana out.
Nope, sorry. I was mistaken. No, that's not Entreat the Angels. I was like,
Okay.
wait a minute, because Entreat the Angels is actually a legacy playable card in Miracles.
Right, no, but it's
So.
similar to Entreat the Angels. Anyways,
Yeah.
so I would have had 4 Angels plus my board state, which was ridiculous. And my board state was ridiculous, so I didn't want to draw more fire, so I didn't go in for the kill. My bad. Learn my lesson. I will play aggressively like I used to and get my ass kicked. That's okay.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, when you have those type of things, especially in Commander, you have to just go, all out, because they're going to be going all out, and you have to do something. You literally, I think Commander comes down to you have to do something degenerate before they do something degenerate.
Yeah, and
Because
basically, I didn't get out there fast enough. Oh well.
Yeah.
So this week, maybe I'll play more EDH. I'm very much still happy with my Lithomancer, Nahiri. She's amazing, and I have all the swords. So.
Oh, you got all the Sword of Body and Mind.
Sword of Body and Mind, Sword of Light and Shadow, Sword of Fire and Ice, Sword of fucking something else. Feast and Famine?
Yep, that sounds right, yeah.
Sounds right. It's ridiculous. If I got a couple combos where I just gonna put out all the shit and you're just gonna cry or wipe the board. Those are your options.
Yeah, the swords are incredibly powerful. Actually, speaking of the swords, I did put a sword in my modern deck now, in my sideboard. Because I wanted to get something, especially with my Geist of Saint Trash, so I put Sword of War and Peace, I think. That's the protection from red, protection from white, which is the two major kill spells in modern. Path to Exile and Lightning Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that'll protect it.
Yeah, protect it, yeah. So,
The swords are great, especially with the Lithomancer, because I don't really care if you wipe the board. I'm just going to start over.
Yeah. I say, and plus since it's the Planeswalker, it doesn't be destroyed in a board wipe.
Yeah, and so it's not going to be destroying the board wipe unless you Fate of Retribution. And either then, she's my commander. She's coming back. You're fucked. You can't get rid of her unless you cycle her into my board. So I'm just going to start pulling everything out of the graveyard, and frankly, not enough people run graveyard hate.
Actually,
so it's just all coming out again.
Kind of think of it. Are there any? Because I know that was one of the things that you never wanted to have done to your commander was have it shuffled into your library, because then it does not. I
have 4 spells that do that.
but does it do creatures or like non-land permanents? Because the more I'm thinking about it,
there's a couple that do creatures, and I think there's one that does permanent.
So permanents are good, but now that there are some Planeswalker commanders, I was just thinking,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I like her so much. Is most people are running creature hate because most people have creatures, not planeswalkers. My planeswalker commander kind of wrecks face with that because I just need to pull one of the gigantic angels out of my deck because it's all angels and then a whole bunch of fucking equipment, and then I'm just gonna stomp all over you. I played a game 2 weeks ago where I got a Chroma out with all the swords.
Oh, wow.
And I was pulling literally every equipment out of my deck till I ran out, and I'm just
equip it.
I'm just hitting people with it. I'm just like, okay, you're dead. Okay, you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay, you're dead. And then the guy pulled out the red dragon that takes all the artifacts.
Oh yeah.
So in response, I pulled out Loxodon Warhammer. So when he swung, I blocked, and I just gained all my life back.
Yeah, because the caveat has got to do it to it's damage to a player, correct?
Yeah, and bitch has got vigilance.
Yeah.
So a chroma, yeah. But I guess I'm playing EDH for a little bit. I haven't gotten a chance to see how my Abzan is going to do in Standard. I haven't been successful at building my Jeskai deck yet. I'm like 3 cards away, and then a whole fuckload of land. But I can play the deck without the land.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you can always get started. It won't run optimally, but it will run, and that's the important part.
Exactly. It won't be perfect, but I can run the deck. So I'm almost there. I need Monastery Mentor and a Soulfire Grandmaster. Like, only just these itty bitty cards.
Well, the good news is, at least I think Soulfire Grandmaster should be coming down a little bit. I mean, not.
I only need one more, so I don't fucking care what it's doing.
It's
Oh,
like,
I lied. I totally need Stokes. I need Stoke the Flame. Alright, anyways, so that's enough about what we did this week. We have very little time for our main topics, and I'm pretty sure that you guys want us to shut up about what we did and tell you about, I don't remember, the first topic.
Well, the first topic we want to talk about, and this was one recommended by you, was how to deal with people who you really don't enjoy playing with, or people who have very difficult personalities. Stuff like that.
I don't know about you or the listeners, but the people I play with are assholes. I mean, you've probably heard me talk. I swear a lot, and I will give you a really fucking hard time. All my friends are the same. You're gonna do something dumb, and we're gonna tell you it's dumb while you're doing it. And then if you continue to do it, which some of them do, and I don't fucking know why, we're just gonna make fun of you mercilessly and then stomp your face in. That's the group of friends I play with. We don't lose to children, even though they're children, and we could throw the game. We're jerks.
Yeah.
But some of us are more jerks than others. And recently, one of my friends has gotten on the nerves of some of the others because she's played the same deck for so long. We all know what the combos are that are going to make her deck go off. So she puts one of them down and we get rid of it. And this makes her very upset.
It's like, well, yeah.
So she whines. We can handle you being a bitch, right? But when you start whining, you get on other people's nerves.
Yeah, and actually, now that you're talking about that, I can think of not at Star City, but the game shop that I used to play at. There was one particular person who just literally every time someone targeted one of his permanents, he took it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, oh my gosh, why are you always targeting me with your stuff? To the point where me and a couple other my friends, we would just make him so angry so he would finally leave.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Whining. How do you deal with people like this? Or how do you deal with people who get really, really angry when they win or have another group? I hate playing with them together because if you enter a 4-pod with the two of them, they'll crush together everybody else in the pod and then go one-on-one.
It's like...
Because...
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, so why do we play with you guys when you don't play fair?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's one of the things, and especially, that's kind of the reason why I don't play a lot of Commander, and I've sort of stepped away from it, because...
The politics.
Politics is like, yeah, it's like, I just want to be like, okay, I want to win. I want to beat you. I don't really care, you know... I don't want to play politics. I just want
I hate the politics too, but this is different than that because they don't say anything. In a normal EDH game, you'll sit down, you don't know these 3 people, right? Or with my other friends, you sit down and we're not going to take sides yet.
Yeah.
Once you start coming out, then the alliances start getting made. But with my other pair of friends, the alliance is made before anybody's played a card.
And admittedly... This is probably gonna get if I name their names, they would probably get in trouble for this.
Names.
But
no names.
Actually, at a Star City Open that I went to, again, this was when my old store, not Star City, where I'm going now, but my old store. There was about a group of 5 or 6 of us who all went up together, and this was during the standard portion where I was going, 6-3 before finally dropping. I was the last person of our group to drop. And so what they were doing is when they were dropping is they were going and signing up for side commander events, side events to commander. And they would all go up there like they don't know each other and usually one poor person usually just got ganged up on by the other 3 because they didn't know the other 3 people actually knew each other. They just thought, hey, this is what happens. It's like, and even I was like, dude, come on, that's just wrong because the winner gets $20 and then they can decide to split that 20, each get
but I think that's
7.
a different scenario than what we're talking about here.
Well, I know, but kind of the same thing is it's very similar in terms of, you don't know that,
No, we
when
know
you
they're
sit down-
gonna gang up together. That's what I'm saying. Is how do you deal with talking to a friend who's being a jerk when you're playing casually? We're not talking about competitions here.
Yeah, no, and so that is one of those personalities that's just incredibly hard to deal with.
Yeah,
Very
and
different.
you don't want to ruin the friendship,
Mhm.
but you have to bring it up because if you don't bring it up, you're gonna stop playing, or they're gonna stop playing.
Yeah.
And then, this is at least for some of the friends I have up here, that's the only reason we see you. And I know I was talking to Mac JN on Twitter, and he was telling me a story about a friend who spent $500 on his casual deck, while the rest of them were running maybe $100 worth of booster packs.
Yeah,
over, a year and a half.
Whatever they could cobble together, yeah.
Yeah. And so the field of play, as it were, turned into the guy with a $100 deck versus decks that either they were still trying to play for fun and they knew they would lose, or decks designed specifically to beat the other deck.
And
You don't want that. You want to avoid that kind of situation.
No, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
So
it's
we asked Facebook and we asked Twitter.
Yeah, it's like I don't think at least I didn't see any main Twitter responses.
I got a Twitter response.
You got a Twitter response? Okay.
Yes.
We'll start with that, and then
Telthar said that he generally tries to tell them politely that what they're doing is bothering him, and then ask them if they really need to do it. And I think this is a great way to go about things, except in the case that not everybody understands that.
Yeah. It's like, or they get very defensive about it.
Or they get defensive about it.
It's just a game, man. Why are you complaining about this? Like,
And I think in that kind of situation, you have to explain to your friend, this isn't fun for me. I'm trying to have fun, and I'm sorry that I don't like the way you're acting, but if you continue to act like this, I'm not going to play with you. Because it's not fun for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's not going to be an easy conversation to have. But friendships aren't always easy. And you shouldn't just stop playing with someone you consider a friend. Now, if they're not a friend, if they're an acquaintance, just don't fucking play with them.
It's like, or actually, what, kind of to give a little example of how we handle a situation, and this is actually with one of my friends, is he built a 5-color deck that essentially was show and tell for, and basically we just told him, like, look, okay, dude, if you're going to pull out the 5-color deck that wins on turn 2 but while we're still trying to develop mana,
Yeah, we're out. I do have some friends who have those decks, and you'll see them, they'll hold up their hand and they'll go, oh, I could win. But the thing about it is, and they can win, they won't. They'll find another way to win because they understand that then nobody wants to play with that deck. Yeah. That's fine to do in a tournament. That is not okay to do in a casual setting.
No, it is not. No. And so, yeah, we just had to approach him and say, look, dude, you have 5 other commander decks
play another one.
That we all enjoy playing with. Just play with one of the other 5.
Or, like my friends do, don't use the combo. That's an option. You don't have to play the combo.
No, absolutely not. You don't have to, yeah.
All right, on Facebook, Chaz Volp gave us an answer that he said you should just be a stand-up player and be genuinely friendly as good practice, even outside Magic. So just always be a good person. And he thinks that if you're dealing with someone less pleasant or upset over losing, just try to be yourself and courteous and nice as much as you can. That's all you can do, really. And I think that's a great tip for people you don't know.
It is. It's like, and especially this is where it kind of steps into even going from casual to a more competitive type of situation, because Yeah, even especially in tournaments, you're playing for top 8 or something like that, or you're doing really, really well, and then you just happen to lose.
Everybody tilts.
Everybody tilts. Everybody tilts. But I think it's a two-sided street. One, the person who won should not, should be a good person and say, hey, it's a good match, or recognize, there were times
Not necessarily. That irritates me. If you've just won and you can tell I'm pissed off because it wasn't a good match, I got color screwed, I had you at 1 and then you won. Don't fucking tell me that was a good match.
Well, it's like, generally those are still, and I normally win or lose. I always offer the hand. I always say, good game. If there was an intervening circumstance, like, I can tell you only were on 2 lands the entire game. It's like, sorry you got mana screwed there, man. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, and that won't piss me off. But if you tell me that was a good game.
But at the same time, though, all games in Magic generally are 3 games. So even if game 2 or game 3 did not go your way, then we still had another game where it was a good game. It was a good match, and see that's and that's kind of where I come from with that. And so being genuinely friendly, even if I'm pissed to high heaven that I only drew 2 lands the entire game and could not play,
that's gonna make me angry, and I don't want to hear you tell me it was a good game. If that's the reason I lose on game 3, that's just how I am. I don't want to hear it. Because it wasn't a good game.
Well,
I got fucked.
Yeah.
That's not a good game. Anyway. Adriel Colin, he also gave us an answer. And he said, lead by example. One thing that always gets me is when a person says that you got lucky. Yes, luck plays into it, but give your opponent the benefit of the doubt if the game goes badly for you or they blow you out. They probably sandbag that disdainful stroke or murderous cut for a reason.
The reason I love playing blue, is that counterspell. And actually, I had this happen at Friday Night Magic. The guy didn't get upset, but I was developing my board. He was playing Sultai Control. He had 7 lands and a Sylvan Caryatid. So my mind keeps going into, okay, I know what's coming. I know. I was 90. He had 2 cards in hand. I was like, okay, I'm 95% sure I know what the next thing is going to be. It's either going to be a board wipe or it's going to be Ugin. And it happened to be Ugin. And I was holding a Stubborn Denial in my hand, and I had a creature power 4 or greater anyway, so it was just going to counter it, even if it was just a Stubborn Denial. Mm-hmm. Or even if it was just a Crux of Fate.
Yeah, you hung on to it for a reason. That's not luck.
That's not luck. That's, it was game 2. I sideboarded in my protection spells.
Yeah, and I think the only time to say that someone got lucky is when you're the person who got lucky. I played a game of Standard last fucking time I played Standard, and I literally drew exactly what I needed every fucking time.
Yeah.
So he could have handled my Standard game if I'd gotten a normal hand, normal draws. But he removed 5 of my creatures. He removed a Sorin. I drew another Sorin. I drew 5 more creatures.
Yeah.
So he got fucked because I got lucky.
And there are those times that sometimes you run good. Sometimes you run lucky.
And I told him that I got lucky. That's why I won. It's not okay to do the reverse of that. For when you lose, tell your opponent they got lucky.
No, it's not. Then actually kind of going on the same line of this is if you're playing a deck that you brewed or you came up with on your own and then you proceed to lose a game, do not say, oh, well, you've had thousands of people who've come out and said that's the best deck. I had that happen at a IQ.
Oh, yeah.
IQ
people
before.
Who get pissed at you because you're running a net deck, that's just rude.
Yeah, it is. It's like, and honestly, the deck I was running at the time, it was right after, I think it was like November or something like that. And Commons Cherokee were still relatively new. Pro Tour just happened, everything else. And I was running a teamer deck. But it was nowhere near a net deck. I mean, I had my own things in there that I thought was still really, really great.
Yeah.
But all he saw was, oh, you're playing a Sylvan Caryatid into a Corsair Crewfix, into whatever else. Thus, you must be net decking.
These are just good cards. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, these are just good cards. And I held my tongue to him, but I want to be like, dude, stop being a sore loser. Like,
Yeah. Even if you are net decking, that's to deal with it. So your homebrew deck cannot put up with something that is a better combination. Even if it's a net deck, that's your problem. That's not your opponent's problem.
Yeah.
And it's really bad sportsmanship to complain about it. I had a friend who got me into black really bad last block in standard. I loved my black deck. He net decked his entire deck. Mine was mostly net decked because I couldn't afford all the goddamn cards. But his was completely, I think it was the one that it won a Pro Tour.
Oh yeah, mono black devotion.
Yeah. And he was running that, and he goes up against this kid, and the kid's like, oh, you're only winning because you're net decking, you're not actually good at this. He was one of the best players in the store, because just because you're net decking doesn't mean you're going to win.
No, absolutely not. It's like, and I mean, there's a percentage of it that is luck. There's a percentage of it that is skill, Now, admittedly, do I look, and this is one of the things that I have to always catch myself with, is especially if I'm losing to like a red deck wins or a very basic, just straight aggro deck, it's really tempting to be like, oh, you're playing a deck that, it's just, it's simple. You throw all your creatures out there.
Red deck wins, it's not simple.
Well, but, I mean, for the most part, though, it's still throw your creatures out there and hope they get through and kill your opponent before they...
The only thing simple about red deck wins is turn card sideways. The rest of it, you have to know when to hold on to the stoke, when to use the stoke on a creature, if you're going to lightning strike a creature or not, when you want to play those pumps, if you want to hold on to the pump. Red deck wins is not fucking simple.
Oh, I know. I agree with you, and it's something that I've had to learn in time. It's not something that just right out of the gate. It's not
You're
something
coming at my second favorite deck, man.
It's but I mean, it's a good deck, and a lot of people who play it are people who are starting to learn the format. But you're right, it's an aggro deck, and
that's because it's cheap.
It's cheap too.
It's cheap.
I'm about to say, and we're going to talk about in our next topic. We're going to be talking about some red decks that did incredibly well.
Yes, but first we're going to finish talking about Facebook, and we're going to do this really quick.
Yes.
Chaz commented again on Adrian Collins. I'm probably saying your name wrong. I'm really, really sorry. Deck, and he said that Adriel, see, totally said it wrong.
Yeah.
Nailed it. It's good just to be polite, and even when they've lost, try not to be condescending, even if you have to say it, and just say it was a good game. Or, yeah, it really sucks you got mono flooded. I don't want to win like that. Or, hey, you played a very good game, win or lose. And I completely agree. Don't be like, yeah, and I also had this card in my hand.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you don't have to show off.
Definitely don't. Matthew Kessinger said, yeah, I can't really add much other than be genuinely friendly player. Magic is a community-based hobby. If you can't support that community spirit, then why are you even playing? Stefan Mazurowski said, kill them with kindness. It makes them so much more on tilt. And
I have seen that. I have seen that. It is like that.
Didn't I just say that? That will piss me off if you tell me it's a good game.
Well, yes, it's like...
Good game! No, fuck you, I hate you.
It's like, well, see, you gotta temper it, though. You can't just be like, oh, yeah, good game. You played 2 lands the entire game and cast 1 spell while I'm, just killing it. Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, you can't go out there and do that. But, it's like, but at the same time, all right, it should never be your goal to make somebody tilt.
Okay, that's not necessarily true, and we will actually talk about that next week as well. If you want to hear why it might be a good idea to put someone on tilt, not nice, not kind, not making you a good sportsman, but why it might be a good idea, we will talk about that next week.
Hold on. So, as someone who has played a good amount of poker, I can understand in the middle of a game.
We'll talk about it next week.
But at the end of one, it's like, no.
For now, we're going to move on to our Pro Tour, which was modern, and we are going to talk about some of the decks that won. Go ahead and take it away, Will.
Okay. So the really interesting thing about this Pro Tour was, one, it was modern, but two, we had just had the bannings of Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, and Birthing Pod, which we discussed on our last episode. So this was the first time that we have seen the professionals, the pros, take a crack at what this modern format should look like.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is sort of what it was before Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time came out in the first place. For
That's
example,
interesting.
it's like just going through the top 8 decks, without going, we'll go maybe a little bit into a couple of them, but the format broke down this way, basically, is there were 3 Abzan decks. So yes, still over a third of the top 8 in Modern still had Siege Rhino, despite the fact that Pod was banned. But actually, speaking of those Abzan decks as well, a couple of them, I think maybe even all 3, were also running a new Fate Reforged card in Tassiger. But we can talk about that in a moment. 2 of the decks were burn decks, just straight up, burn your face off, play Monastery Mentor, Goblin Guide, stuff like that, and just kill you, straight up. 2 of the decks were Splinter Twin, which is a very specific combo deck in Modern, using creatures like Deceiver Exarch, Pestermite. Essentially, both those creatures are creatures that have flash, and they say when they come into the battlefield, you can tap or untap a target permanent. Generally, the way this combo works is at the end of turn, or at the end of your opponent's turn, I should say, you cast, say, Deceiver Exarch for 3 mana. You untap at that point, and then you cast Splinter Twin for 4 mana. Then what Splinter Twin says is once you tap it, you make a copy of that. You can make a copy of that creature. So what you have is the Deceiver Exarch, copy it. When the copy comes in, it'll say tap or untap target creature. You untap the creature that has Splinter Twin on it, and all these copies have haste. So you essentially make 1,000,000 copies and swing for the win.
Because you're lame.
Yeah. It's like, well, no, it really is a great combo. Actually, it was the deck that ended up winning the Pro Tour as well. And then there was one other combo deck, and we can talk about that one in a moment because I want to go a little more in depth on that one. So,
Okay.
But the tournament was won by Antonio Del Moro Leon, which, first of all, I think I actually rolled that R, which is pretty good because I haven't had Spanish in quite some time. But he was the winner. He was playing Splinter Twin, and he was just playing straight red-blue Splinter Twin. No fancy things with like Kiki Jiki, no splashing green for Tarmogoyf. He was just straight Splinter Twin. And also the interesting thing about that is he's also the first Spaniard to win the Magic Pro Tour. So
Ever?
very, very first one. Then the second place, and this is the deck that I want to talk just a little bit more on than probably the other decks because it is such an interesting deck. It was second place was Justin Cohen playing Amulet Bloom deck. Now this is a very specific combo, and actually it's technically 2 combos in one. All of it really revolves around a 1-mana artifact called Amulet of Vigor. What Amulet of Vigor says is whenever a permanent enters the battlefield under your control, whenever a permanent enters the battlefield tapped and under your control, untap it. Now the way that this works is there was a specific set of lands in the original Ravnica block called Bounce Lands, or I don't know if that's the exact name for them, but the traditional name that they're called are Bounce Lands. What Bounce Lands say, for example, let's just go with Golgari Rot Farm. It says when it enters the battlefield, it comes to the battlefield tapped, and you have to return a land you control back to your hand when it comes in. So what you do is you play the land, Amulet of Vigor goes on the stack first, and you untap it, tap it for 2 mana, and then you can either choose to bring even itself back, or you can choose to bring another land back in response to it. the way that this works is you need that, and you also need the way to be able to cast multiple lands per turn. And there's two main ways that this occurs. One is through a card called Summer Bloom, which says I think you can play
Up to three additional lands.
Yeah. So what you do is you play Summer Bloom, you play the land, untap it, tap it, bring it back to your hand. You play the land, untap it, tap it, bring it back to your hand. Then play the land again, untap it, tap it, bring it back to your hand. So on turn 2, you're looking as much as 6 mana, possibly, which just happens to be the exact same amount of mana it takes to cast Primeval Titan. Well, 7 actually, because you're doing it. Yeah. So okay. So or actually, prime time. Yeah, some prime time is 6. Okay, so Primeval Titan. Now here's where it gets a little insane. Is because
Primeval Titan 6.
Primeval Titan is 6. Yeah, I was looking at it wrong. For some reason, I thought there was an additional green symbol, but it is 6. So
Okay.
that is perfect. Okay. So what happens is when Primeval Titan enters the battlefield, or when he attacks, you can search your library for up to 2 additional lands and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Well, as we already know from Amulet of Vigor, if they come in tapped, you can go ahead and untap them. Which means then there's some lands like Slayer Stronghold where you can give a creature haste.
For 1 red and 1 white.
1 red, 1 white. So usually you would go get like a Boris Garrison and a Slayer Stronghold, and then immediately give Primeval Titan haste. So on turn 2, you're really looking at a fast 6/6 trampler.
With vigilance.
With vigilance, correct. On top of everything else. So, believe it or not, that's only one part of the combo. That's the beatdown part of the combo. The other part of the combo is actually a little crueler than even this.
Oh,
There's an enchantment in this deck called Hive Mind. Now, what Hive Mind does is says it also costs 6 mana. It says whenever anybody casts a spell, your opponent gets a copy of it. It's like, okay, well, how would that work? Well, there are some spells that are called packs. There's Summoner's Pact, Pact of Negation, and Slaughter Pact specifically in this deck. They are 0 mana abilities, or 0 mana instance. And what happens is, after you resolve the Hive Mind, you can cast the 0 mana instant that says it does something, either counters target spell, or you can search your library for a creature. Whatever it is, you can just basically name it that. However, it gives your opponent a copy of it. Now, the other part of this spell says that during your upkeep, you have to pay a certain mana cost, or you lose the game immediately. So for Summoner's Pact, for example, is at the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 2 green if you don't lose the game. Well, let's say your opponent is running, I don't know, Splinter Twin. It's red and blue. You cast Summoner's Pact. They get a copy of Summoner's Pact, and they can go and get it, not a problem. By the way, this also does not target. So if you have something like that gives yourself hexproof, it doesn't help with this, because it says each opponent gets 1, so it's not really targeting you at all. Then what they say is, okay, pass turn. You untap, and then you go into your upkeep step. During your upkeep step, they're saying you need to pay 2 green. Well, unfortunately for you, all your mana is red and blue. So immediately you lose the game.
Or even on turn 2, you don't have that much land.
Or on top of that, yeah, that's not even counting the other issue. But additionally, you don't even have the color mana that you're actually looking for in this case. So you immediately lose the game.
Oh, that's rough.
It is a rough combo. Then after sideboard, kind of the interesting thing that it can do is this actually can go into more of a just straight creature deck, because it brings in stuff like Thragtusk, Hornet Queen, Sigarda, just really Wormcoil, and just really big creatures that a lot of times he was just sideboarding out the combo because they were going to bring in some form of enchantment destruction anyway. It was never going to get off. But now you can just create a bunch of mana and just play these really big creatures really early.
Mm-hmm.
There was one game I literally saw him hit for 17 or 18 on turn 2.
Oh, man.
which of course in this format where you have a lot of crack fetch lands get a shock land, and so you're dealing yourself 3 damage. That's traditionally enough to kill you. So.
Yep.
So yeah, this is I don't know. This deck has been putting up some really great results. This is the deck that won the modern, or something very similar to it, was the deck that won the modern Premier IQ the week before the Pro Tour, and this got second place at the last modern modern GP, only losing to Pod.
Gosh.
So. This is a legit deck. This is a deck that you're going to see more and more people popping up and actually playing this deck. And it seems like a really fun deck, actually, I'll be honest.
If you like combo decks, anyways.
If you like combo decks, this seems to be just kind of right up your alley combo deck. So
Definitely.
All right, so going to the 3rd and 4th place. I think the 4th place deck, I think, was just another Splinter Twin deck. Kind of the same thing that we were going on. Then... we get to the first Obzon deck, which, by the way, if you can go to the Wizards website and watch the semifinal game that was between the Amulet Combo deck and the Obzon deck, that is by far one of the best matches of Magic I have seen in quite some time. And the way that it ended... let me just go through it really rapidly. I'll tell you how this game...
Who played? I don't think we have time to go through how it played, so let's just go.
Yeah, so, but anyway... It essentially ended where he had to deal like 9 damage in one turn, and he had to do it through a Tassiger and a Aven Mind Sensor, and he was able to do it.
Oh gosh! All right, let's go. Let's talk about that. Actually, how did he do that?
Okay, so how the Amulet Bloom deck pulled this off was he had a Primeval Titan, and he had Hornet Queen tokens. Now, the Hornet Queen tokens were just basically for defense against the Tassiger and the Aven Mind Sensor, essentially. Now, Aven Mind Sensor, and I think this was Jacob... I want to say this was Jacob Wilson's deck, but I'm not 100% certain. I need to go back and look to see what the actual standings were. But we'll worry about that another time. But anyway, all right, so he swung with his Siege Rhino the turn before. He knocked him down to 2. Literally, this was his last turn. It was win or nothing. So he moves to attack with Primeval Titan. Now, Primeval Titan says when he attacks, you can search your library for up to 2 lands and put them onto the battlefield tapped. And he had Amulet Vigor out and everything else. However, Aven Mind Sensor says whenever you search your library, you can only look at the top 4 cards. You can't search your entire library. So he really honestly needed 2 specific cards.
Mm-hmm.
He needed the Boros Bounce Land, the red-white one, and he needed the let's see. Let me go back to this deck and I can look up specifically what land that he was looking for. I'm pretty sure it was the Slayer. No. I think it was, is it Sunhome Fortress of the Legion that it gives a creature double strike?
Sunhome, yes.
Yes, okay, so Sunhome gives creature double strike. So literally those were the 2 lands he was looking for. The lands he ended up getting were he got Sunhome and he got Vesuva. Now, Vesuva is not necessarily the land you are looking for, but what Vesuva says is as it enters the battlefield, it makes a copy of a land that's already on the battlefield, I think. Let's see. Yeah. You may have a Vesuva enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any land on the battlefield already. So, he was able to play it, copy it as the Boros land. Then he was able to untap it. I think he was able to give it plus 2 to make it an 8/8, and then able to give it double strike. So even blocking with Tassiger, which is 5, and Aven Mind Sensor, which is 1 toughness, 6, he was able to swing over for 10 damage. His opponent was at 9. So he ended up winning the match by literally, it was probably the luckiest of draws
Yeah, that sounds like some luck right there, but still, he knew exactly what he needed.
Yeah, if anybody who, if I sat down with the deck, I probably would not have seen that line of play. To be like, okay, well, let's see, I need this, I can swing through Tassiger and everything else. I would have never saw it, but it was really, and another professional, Louis Scott Vargas, was sitting in the booth commentating on this, and he was like, as soon as he saw the lands, it was like, oh my gosh, he's got it. He's got the win. And all the other commentators were like, really? Like, how does he have it? And he walked them through, like, this is how this is going to work. He's going to win this match on literally his very last possibility of winning this. So,
wow. Hear that, folks? Never scoop.
Never, ever scoop. Yes. Even when it just seems like everything's against you, do not scoop.
Never, ever scoop.
So, but yeah, a really great match. If you get a chance to watch it, it was just one of the most amazing match conclusions I have seen. It was just out of nowhere, and I was like, "Oh, this dude's dead. He's not going to make it to the finals." And then it was like, and they were in game 3 as well, so it was like,
"Oh man, that other guy's got to be so pissed."
It's like, I mean, honestly, I don't even know if he knew what was going to hit him. Honestly, so
that's what I'm saying. Like, so pissed. He's like, I got this. There's nothing he can do. I've won this game, and then whoomph, Tassiger to the face, or Tassiger doesn't save his face. Sorry.
Primeval Titan comes over. It's just like, okay, and you're dead. So
I am bigger than you.
So yeah, incredible ending to that match. But kind of just go through kind of what the traditional Abzan decks were doing in the first place.
No, that's actually the end of the show right there.
That's the end of the show?
That is the end of the show. Sorry, Abzan. We're done with you, Siege Rhino.
We talked enough about Siege Rhino and everything else. So yeah, Siege Rhino. Then there were a couple burn decks, just your traditional burn your face, essentially. So
take it to the face, like and
that was your top 8 from the Pro Tour. So.
I'm very, I gotta say I'm more interested in Modern, because I hated pod decks.
Yeah.
I think that I wasn't the only one, but I saw one pod deck, and I was like, okay, I never want to play this format.
I was about to say, admittedly, if you think pod decks are bad, there's a person who, at my store, who was playing Affinity Pod. And yes, this was an actual deck that essentially... you played a 7-mana creature, but he had affinity for artifacts, and so for every artifact you have, you get one. You'll take one off of it, so you could literally play this for free. Then next turn, he would have his pod. He would pod it for Grizzlebrand on turn 3 or 4. Like, are you serious? Like,
that's ridiculous.
You really just pod for Grizzlebrand? Like, come on. So, but yeah, I'm. Again, going back to last week, I'm happy to see Pod go, because I actually think every single one of these decks had a real reason why it was here and a reason why it was good for it to be here. And so whether it was the burn decks with the format being in flux, it's always good to go with an aggro deck. You had your combo decks in there, and even your Siege Rhino decks. Siege Rhino is going to be around for quite some time, folks.
Forever.
Get used to it. So, I think all these, if anything, it should reassure the pod players that, you know what, yes, you invested money into your decks, but it's not all in vain. You still have a really good deck, even minus pod.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, pod was not the end-all, be-all of the world.
No.
All right, so thank you for listening to us this week. If you've somehow forgotten, we're Alternate Win Condition. I'm Janaelle, and this is Will.
And let's see, we all have Twitters. I am on Twitter at RedHawkWill, and you can also find the show at AWC Podcast.
I'm on Twitter as Janaelle5, Janaelle, and the number 5. We have a show email where if you want to tell us how, I suck because I don't want to hear good game, or anything else that we talked about today and we're wrong or we're right, or you have your own opinion that has nothing to do with anything we said, you can email the show, awcpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like,
there's a bunch of ways to support the show.
There is. There is. We are on SoundCloud. You can look for us at AWC Podcasts, or maybe under alternate win condition. Look under both. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% certain exactly which one it's under, but I think it's AWC Podcast. And you can like us there, or you can repost that.
And we'd appreciate that. That'll get it out to more people.
Yep. We are also on YouTube, so we want you to comment, like, thumbs up on YouTube.
Liking and thumbs up on YouTube are the same thing. Just do it twice.
Do it twice. Yes, just do it twice. Then you can also find the podcast, as well as a lot of other great Magic content, on boltsnapbolt.net. And actually, just kind of throwing a quick little extra plug in there, we actually have just signed on a Tiny Leaders writer who's going to be writing weekly articles about Tiny Leaders. So if you're interested in Tiny Leaders, or Tiny Commander,
head over there and you can check out what that guy's got to say.
Yeah, it is like,
because we're so good with names, we told you his name.
We told you his name.
If you forgot it already, it's not our problem.
Nope. And you also find, I have my articles there too, as well. Weekly articles there, Force of Will. So check it out. And also, you can support the podcast financially by using the Puka Trade referral link right on the website while you're there. So please do that.
The boltsnapbolt.net website. Yes. That's the referral link.
And then we have one new other place you can find us this week. We have gotten our approval for Stitcher.
Yay!
So you can find us on Stitcher if you have Stitcher on your phone or on your
if you
tablet.
have it on your desktop or wherever the heck you have it, you can find us there. Give us a thumbs up if that's where you're listening. That will definitely help support the show. And we'd like it if you'd support the show, because that means we can keep doing the show. Yep,
absolutely. So, so let's see. Final things that we want to talk about. Janaelle, you have another podcast.
I do have another podcast where I talk about video games and get very crude and naughty. So if you're not into that stuff, stay the fuck away. It's 5 Gaming Things. We're also on Stitcher. So. We're also on iTunes. You can find us at 5gamingthings.com. I also have a blog where I talk about video games when I feel like it, and that's speckandamisdirect.wordpress.com. Unlike Will, I don't really care if you go, because I don't get anything out of that. But it's there. It exists.
I was about to say, and as for I already mentioned my blog, Force of Will. However, since we did talk about Modern, if you want to figure out ways to actually fight these Modern decks, all we can say is check out my blog. It is like, because tomorrow when we're recording this, I will be putting up a little article on how to fight these decks.
All right, so that's the show.
That's it. We're done.
Bye.
Bye.